to Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. And here's your host, Cody Manning.
And welcome into the Friday edition of Cody Talks NFL. I hope you guys are doing great. I'm doing pretty good. I'll be honest, a little hungover. Hung out with some friends last night. I had a good time, but I'm still going to deliver this my show to you guys. It's something I like to stick to, and I hope you guys are enjoying this as I go through this process of making the show better for you guys. And gals, too, if you listen. But I just hope you know that I include you guys. I include gals when I say guys on the show. I realized when I was listening to my show the other day that I kind of do say that word a lot. So I wanted to address that at the beginning. I'm just going to go ahead and dive into the show. A lot of trades happened. So my news section this week, today's episode, is specifically with all the trades that have happened throughout this week, and then I'll recap last night's game really quick for you guys, and then I'm going to go ahead and dive into the previewing the Sunday matchups. Now, I'm going to go ahead and dive into, I think, which was the biggest trade, the most impactful trade, in my opinion, that happened this week was Emmanuel Sanders going to the 49ers. San Francisco gets Sanders, and they also got a 2020 fifth-round pick in the process. And then they sent the Denver Broncos a 2020 third and fourth-round pick. I really like this move for San Fran. Sanders just seems like the most perfect fit for Kyle Shanahan's system. He's the type of wide receiver that can give him another edge on the offense. I won't say it will take him like to the Super Bowl, but he adds that element that makes him more of a threat in the passing game. I really like that move for the 49ers. As far as the Broncos, they were just moving on from a player that's contract was expiring. This was kind of expected once they lost that game last week to the Chiefs. So they get some draft capital for a player they knew they were going to move on from anyway. So that opens up for things for guys like Cortland Sutton and Deshaun Hamilton for the Broncos. Next trade, Mohamed Sanu went to the Patriots. It was a simple trade where New England got a Sanu, Atlanta got a 2020 second-round pick. Now, apparently, New England has tried to acquire Sanu since the NFL draft, so it seems like Belichick has had his eye on him. Obviously, the Falcons probably had higher expectations for their year, so they didn't want to trade him. And then once their year fell apart, they were ready just to go ahead and pull the trigger on that move. And then on top of that, I know there's a lot of speculation that the Falcons are paying a lot of this salary. That actually hasn't been confirmed yet. The Patriots it was reported by Field Yates, the Patriots converted $1.75 million of Shaq Mason's base salary into a signing bonus, and they created $1.4 million in cap space per source. This room was created to facilitate the acquisition of Mohamed Sanu. But I do think the Falcons are probably paying still some of that salary. There's no for sure numbers about that yet, but it's assumed because Sanu shouldn't be going for a second-round pick, right? He's a 31-year-old receiver, more of a number two, not a number one. So I would assume that money's still getting paid. Obviously, it's a good move for the Patriots. They get wide receiver depth. Their wide receivers have been banged up all year. As far as the Falcons, they're just getting capital for a player. They drafted Calvin Ridley last year, so it was just a matter of time, I think, before Sanu was not going to be playing for the Falcons. So they might as well get some capital in the process while they're at it. Next move is pretty interesting. Garyon Conley, the cornerback for the Raiders, got traded to the Texans. Conley, basically Houston gets Conley. Oakland gets a 2020 third-round pick. Now, that 2020 third-round pick is is the pick that the Texans got from the Clowney trade and from the Seahawks. So, basically, if you look at it, the Texans traded Clowney and they got Conley, Jacob Martin, and Barkevious Mingo. This is a much-needed new move for the Texans. Basically, Bill O'Brien as a GM is all in. He doesn't care about future draft picks, and he's just trying to win now because he probably understands that he doesn't take the Texans to the playoffs, that he's probably going to get fired. I won't say that for sure, but it kind of feels like that with all these moves he's made this year. So they get a young cornerback, and I like the move for the Texans too. I want to say it was Daniel Jeremiah that reported this on his podcast, and I'm wrong. If I'm wrong about this, I do apologize to whoever reported this on their podcast. But apparently, the Texans did the research. The odds of hitting on a third-round defensive back versus just acquiring somebody who a known commodity like Conley. It makes more sense just to trade, and you know what you're going to get. So I like that move. I really don't understand it for the Raiders. I know they drafted a couple guys. I know Darryl, I think Roberts has been playing pretty well as a cornerback for them, but still not. I'm still a little confused. Maybe they're going to go trade for a different type of cornerback, but they get some more draft capital to work with. Maybe work to help facilitate a trade. But I do like the move for the Texans because they realize their secondary needs as much help as it can get, so you might as well take as many chances as you can. And then the next trade that happened this week is the Quandre Diggs, the Lions safety, got traded to the Seahawks. Seattle gets Diggs and a 2021 7th-round pick, and Detroit got a 2020 5th-round pick for Diggs. Now, this is pretty interesting. I like this move for the Seahawks side because they need safety help and they need secondary help, and he's a pretty solid safety. I won't say he's great, but he's a really solid starter. He can immediately come in and make an impact on their secondary, help them play a lot better. I really don't understand, though, the move for Detroit. He was a locker room leader. He was loved within the locker room. Detroit still has a chance to make something of this season, and then we see them trade a locker room leader. And I don't know if you're on Twitter or not, but the Detroit Lions defensive side of the ball was very upset. They were really upset that he got traded. This is the type of move that can just totally break up a locker room and totally destroy your season. Darius Slay is very upset. He took to Twitter about it. When he got interviewed about it, he said, "Nobody's safe here. There's no loyalty, and I really don't care if I'm here anymore." So now it's like I feel like that's gonna linger in the games. That's not good. Who knows? Now, basically Darius Slay is kind of saying, just get me out of here. I don't want to be here. So maybe there's another big cornerback now on the market, and maybe this is somebody maybe like the Raiders could go trade for. Maybe the Eagles can go try to get him. So it'd be interesting. I do believe that would be an interesting name to watch over the coming days. It's just so odd because the Lions were right there from having a good year and trying to make a playoff run, and now it seems like, I don't know, it seems like it's going to fall apart really quick. Moving on to the next trade, Michael Bennett last night got traded to the Dallas Cowboys. He was not happy with his time in New England, so they just went ahead and shipped him out. It was just a really low-end trade. New England, in return, got a 2021 7th-round pick that can turn into a 6th-round pick. I mean, I'm sure it depends on Bennett's snap count or time on the roster, something like that. Nothing came out that I could find this morning about it, but they can turn into a 6th-round pick. Basically, they just wanted to get rid of them. And as far as the impact, I like the move for the Cowboys. They add much needed depth to their defensive line. He can help get after the quarterback, play with Lawrence, play with Quinn. I believe Quinn's dealing with a rib injury too. We'll see where he's at after the bye week. So it's a good move for a team that wants to go on a deep playoff run. And that guy can give them tons of experience. I'm gonna go ahead and quickly recap last night's game. Last night's game wasn't nothing too fun to watch, anyways. Vikings handled their business, 19-9. They actually went the whole game without punting. The Vikings did. Kirk Cousins had one of the best games, and not through yards and touchdowns, but as far as completions in Vikings history. Stephon Diggs just had the past 3 games. He has the most receiving yards in a 3-game span in Vikings history. So Vikings are rolling. They go to 6-2. I really like where the Vikings are going right now. I like how Kirk is playing, and I think the Vikings are becoming a team you don't want to face when it comes in the playoffs, because they can beat you on the ground game with Dalvin Cook. He's looking good. They can beat you through the air with how Kirk's playing. Their defense is legit. So this is a team that, as long as they stay healthy and as long as Kirk Cousins keeps playing like this, they have a chance to go on a deep playoff run. As far as the Redskins, they are who they are. They already fired their coach. They're just going to stink and lose a lot of games. From last night, though, Case Keenum did suffer a concussion. Bill Callahan, the interim head coach, confirms that Keenum is still the starter if healthy. Haskins came in. He actually made a throw that kind of really impressed me, but then he had that one throw that he kind of he made the right read, but he overthrew the guy and tipping out of the guy's hands and into the interception, which killed the Redskins' chances of trying to make a comeback and tie the game. We'll see what's going forward with that. I really don't have no belief that the Redskins will just turn around and just, finish the season strong. I think they're just going to lose games and maybe they luck into a win here and there. One last thing on the Redskins, though. Ian Rappaport did report that the Redskins are adamant that they're not going to trade Trent Williams unless someone blows their doors off with a trade offer. I don't understand that. But he also said, from my understanding, the tentative plan for Trent Williams is he will show up before Week 10 when he has to show up to have a crude season. He still may not play for him as he nurses himself back to full health, of course, but at least that's the tentative plan. So that's something to monitor. It does sound like Williams won't be getting traded, but maybe a team gets desperate before the deadline and they want a tackle that can help push them onto a playoff run, like the Browns, for example. As far as the bye teams, there's two teams on a bye, the Cowboys and the Ravens. Outside the Michael Bennett trade, there's no news on the Cowboys front, and there's no news on the Ravens. So I'm actually going to go ahead and get into the first set of games on Sunday. The first game I'm going to talk about is Seattle is traveling out to Atlanta to face the Falcons. There is no news on either team. As far as the practice reports with notable names, Jermaine Ifedi did not practice with a knee injury. Bradley McDougald has been limited with a back injury. Dwayne Brown has been limited with a bicep injury. Trey Flowers has been limited with a neck injury. Ziggy Ansah has been limited with the ankle injury. Quandre Diggs, a new acquired player for the Seahawks, he actually has been limited with the hamstring injury. And George Fant has been limited with a shoulder injury. And then with the Falcons injuries, Matt Ryan has not practiced yet this week, but it did sound like they have belief that he could still play. He's a veteran quarterback, so if he can show up, if you look at the practice report today and if he practices, I would assume that he's going to play. If he doesn't practice, I think maybe that means they might as well rule him out, I would assume, but watch that practice report for Ryan. Grady Jarrett has not practiced this week with his abdomen. James Carter has not practiced with his knee. Desmond Trufant has not practiced with a toe injury, and Ito Smith has been out with a concussion. As far as this game, guys, this is like I've said. I'll always give credit to Steve Smith for this, but the Atlanta Falcons are that get-right team. Seahawks coming off that loss to the Ravens, they could not ask for a better opponent to try to fix some things on their offense and on their defense. Get Diggs involved on their defense, get him some reps so he understands how to work within that scheme. So I think the Seahawks handle business, man. I think Chris Carson runs all over them. I think Russell Wilson has a day, 2 or 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Puts himself right back in the MVP talk, which he shouldn't leave after just one bad game anyways. So I think the Seahawks handle business. They should win by at least I'll give them 7 points. But if Matt Ryan doesn't play, they should win by 2 touchdowns or more. And then I'm just going to go ahead because that game's pretty easy to pick. So I'm just going to go ahead and go into the next game. Denver is traveling to Indianapolis to place the Colts. No news on either team as far as the injuries with notable names. On the Broncos front, Bryce Callahan has not practiced yet. He's still out with that foot injury. Justin Holland's been limited this week with a knee injury. On the Colts front, Jabal Shear did not practice with a foot injury. Pierre Desir's been limited with a hamstring. Paris Campbell with a abdominal has been limited. Tyquan Lewis with an ankle injury. And Kenny Moore has been limited with a knee injury. As far as how this game's going to go, I think the Colts just handle business. I mean, they're coming off that, not necessarily back-to-back. They had a bye week in between it, but 2 games in a row where they basically shut down the Chiefs and they contained Deshaun Watson. So I really don't view Joe Flacco as a threat to that defense. They get Malik Hooker back, so that defense is going to even play better. I think they're going to harass Flacco all afternoon, force him into mistakes, force him into fumbles or interceptions. I think the offense has a great day. With it being at home, I have this weird feeling that Marlon Mack's going to have a career-type day against that Broncos defense. And he's going to have a solid day. Jacoby will have a good day. Maybe T.Y. gets a big bomb touchdown because they're running the ball off a play-action play. I think the Colts handled their business. I'll say they win by 7+ points on Sunday. I'm going to go ahead and get into the next game for you guys. Tampa Bay is traveling to Tennessee to face the Titans. No news on this front as far as injuries with the Bucs. Alex Kappa, he hasn't practiced yet with his forearm injury. O.J. Howard actually hasn't practiced with a hamstring injury, and DeMar Dotson has been limited with his hamstring injury. On the Titans front, Adoree Jackson has not practiced with his foot. Delaney Walker has not practiced with an ankle injury. And then Jarrell Casey and Rashaan Evans have both been limited with shoulder injuries. As far as how I think this game is going to go, it's kind of hard for me to pick. I know the Titans just came off a win. They got a pretty solid defense. The last time we saw the Bucs, they put off a pretty miserable performance with Jameis Winston's 6 turnovers. But they are coming off a bye week. I think this game is going to be really close. I honestly could see it going either way. I think whoever wins this game wins by like a field goal. I'm going to pick the Bucs in this one. I think they're coming off a bye week. I feel like Bruce Arians will have a great game plan to attack that Tennessee defense. As long as Winston can limit the amount of ball interceptions or turnovers he has, that gives her better chances. So I'm not trusting this whole Ryan Tannehill. Like, yeah, he definitely looked a lot better than Mariota in their system. He's pushing the ball down the field, which is why I think this will be a pretty good game. But I'm going to say the Bucs win by a field goal. But like I said, I can see either team winning this game. It's kind of in this game, and there's actually quite a few games with this type of feel to it, but it feels like this is like a season saver type game. Like if the Titans lose this, they're probably not going to have a chance to get back in the playoffs. If they win, they have a chance to try to fight into the playoffs and for the AFC South. Same thing with the Bucs. This is they're sitting at a 2-4 record coming off the bye week. Basically, if they don't win this, their basically season's done, and they're just going to try to build their young players and get ready for next season. But yeah, I'm taking the Bucs though to win by 3 in this one. And I'm gonna go ahead and get into the next game. Arizona is traveling out to New Orleans to face the Saints. No news on either team as far as injuries with the Cardinals front. Zach Allen has not practiced with a neck injury. Jordan Hicks hasn't practiced with a calf injury. David Johnson hasn't practiced with an ankle injury. Christian Kirk has been limited with an ankle injury, and Hassan Reddick has been limited with a knee injury. On the Saints front, Traquan Smith has not practiced with an ankle, as well as Jared Cook with his ankle. He's been out, and then Patrick Robinson hasn't practiced with a hamstring injury. Now, here's the thing. Drew Brees has returned. He says he does want to play on Sunday. Take a look at watch. There'll probably be a report out by the time you're watching or listening to the show. I still lean towards they end up starting Teddy and give Brees more rest, have a more smoother transition. I think he won't play Sunday because look, what's the point? They're about to have a bye week. And then lastly, Alvin Kamara. He has been limited this week with a knee and ankle injury. So that's another guy to watch on when the final report comes out today to see if he's going to have a chance to play on Sunday and make his return. As far as how this game comes down, I believe I was talking to my producer, Rob about it. I got this weird feeling we're going to see a huge Kyler Murray type day. I got that like RG3, his rookie year vibes, his first game when he went in there into New Orleans and lit him up. I got that vibe, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a lot tougher with David Johnson more than likely not going to play. Even with Teddy Bridgewater, even if they don't have Alvin Kamara and Jared Cook, we saw the Saints are pretty good. I know the Cardinals have won the last 3 games, but those last 3 games have been against very subpar teams. So with the Saints being at home, I am going to take the Saints. I do think the Cardinals do battle, though. And like I said, I have a feeling Kyler Murray is going to have a pretty good afternoon. I don't know why, but I just have that feeling. But I think the Saints find a way to win, and they end up winning. I want to say between 4 to 6 points. I feel like not even a touchdown, just like 4 to 6 points. I feel like they squeeze out a win to go into their bye week with a bunch of momentum as they get Drew Brees back. And we'll see if Drew Brees plays. That even makes even more of a reason why they will win. And then as far as the next game, Cincinnati is facing the Rams, and they are not going to LA. Keep in mind, guys, This game is in London. Now this is a London game, but it still starts at the normal time. It's not like that Bucs Panthers game. It's not like a 9:30 start. It just starts at when games normally do go on. As far as news, I found this pretty interesting on the Rams front. Jalen Ramsey actually paid $20,000 to Troy Hill, and he easily accepted that deal. I just can't imagine where you can just fork over that type of money just for a jersey number. I'm thinking I'm on the wrong side of this business. And then as far as injuries, with the Bengals, they're ridiculously banged up. Darqueze Dennard hasn't practiced with a hamstring. Carl Lawson hasn't practiced with a hamstring. Drake Kirkpatrick has not practiced with his knee injury. And then these following guys have been limited. Carlos Dunlap with his knee. AJ Green's been limited with his ankle. The report was that he probably won't come back until next week, so that's something to monitor. John Miller has been limited with a groin. Andre Smith with an ankle, and Cordy Glenn with a concussion. On the Rams front, they actually already ruled out Malcolm Brown with his ankle injury, so he is for sure not playing. And the following three players haven't practiced this week: Bryce Hager with a shoulder, Troy Hill with a hamstring, and obviously Clay Matthews is still out with his jaw injury. As far as how I think this game's going to go, I think the Rams are going to literally walk right all over them. Seems like a type of game that Todd Gurley can have a Todd Gurley epic performance. Jared Goff should definitely have a good game because not only is the Bengals, but they're down Drake Kirkpatrick and Darqueze Dennard. They are getting William Jackson back, but that's two of their key parts in their secondary. So I see a long day for the Bengals. I honestly think the Rams should walk out with a at least a minimum 2-touchdown win. If this is a close game, I'll be worried. But then again, I will say this: it is a London game, so I guess don't be surprised if they come out slow, but I think even if they came out slow, eventually the Rams pull away regardless. I'm just going to go ahead and dive into the next game then. The Philadelphia Eagles is traveling out to Buffalo to face the Bills. There is no news for either team as far as the injuries heading into this matchup. On the Eagles front, I believe, all these people have not practiced. Nigel Brandom with an ankle and illness, Deshaun Jackson with his abdomen, Tim Jernigan with his foot, Avonte Maddox with a concussion and neck injury, Jason Peters with a knee injury, and Darren Sproles with a quadricep. On the Bills front, Kurt Coleman has not practiced this week with a hamstring. Kevin Johnson's been limited with the neck. Matt Milano with the hamstring. And Duke Williams with his shoulder injury. He has been limited as well. As far as how I think this game's going to go, this is a tough one for me because I feel like this is like both teams have a reason to win, right? So the Eagles you're playing your basic, classic, back to the wall game. They're sitting at 3-4. NFC is extremely tough right now. I honestly think their only shot right now with how the rest of the NFC is playing is for them to win this game and make sure they're within a game of the Cowboys to try to win the NFC East. I think that's basically at this point, I want to say this is their only shot to make the playoffs. Who knows how things play out over this next month. But back against the wall type game for the Eagle, must win to save their season. Usually teams play a lot better at these type of games. They'll be really telling their body language. If they come out really slow, that kind of seems like the whole locker room's lost, which is what it looked like against the Cowboys. Now let's look at the Bill side of this too, right? Nobody's giving respect to the Bills. And I understand too, they really haven't played a tough team outside New England, which they lost to. They kind of almost let one go against the Dolphins last week. So the Bills, this is kind of a statement game too for the Bills, right? If they could come out here and beat the Eagles, because everybody probably assumes the Eagles will win this, they're the better team, that can really make people, jump on that bandwagon, really, start to believe in them. That's something they want to probably win for, and they probably want to make that make people just straight up dive into that bandwagon. And this is the type of game I think I want to see Josh Allen have that full game, right? I want to see him really deliver and put this team on his back and carry him to a victory against who, even though they're having a bad year, but just a team I still think can be a pretty good team. As far as this, though, guys, really quick to get with the prediction. Like I said, I could see both teams winning, as you just heard me describe this game. Both have statements to make, I guess you could say. But I am going to take the Eagles. It's like I said, it's your classic back to the wall game. I think the Eagles squeeze out a game like by 1 to 3 points, and then like I said, I could see it going that the other way. I could see the Bills winning this between 1 to 3 points. It's going to be a classic. I think it's going to be a low scoring, classic defensive battle game, back to the wall. But I think somehow the Eagles do find a way to win this. So I'm picking the Eagles. But I'm not afraid to say I can see the Bills winning too. But I'm going to take the Eagles just because it's your classic back to the wall game. I'm going to go ahead and dive into the next game. Chargers are traveling out to the Bears. As far as injuries, the Chargers team IR. Nasir Adderley has yet to return with his hamstring injury. Justin Jones has not practiced with a shoulder injury. Brandon Mebane has not practiced with a knee injury. Derek Watt has not practiced with a knee injury. Keenan Allen didn't practice yesterday with a hamstring injury, so that's something to monitor. Melvin Ingram did return to practice this week and he's been limited. I'm not sure if he's set to return or not. And then Justin Jackson has been limited with a calf injury. And on the Bears front, no notable names were on their injury report heading into this game. As far as how I think this game's going to go, this is kind of like how I view the Buccaneers and Titans game. I feel like this is like a win or go home type game for each team. You could argue basically the Chargers are kind of already out of it, but they are in the AFC, so they have a really better chance to turn this around and go on a run and try to squeeze in to the wild card. And the Bears too, like they're 3-3. A win here puts them at 4-3. They can try to turn around and get things going forward. But with how the Bears came out after a bye week, how Trubisky looked, that offense, I talked about it on the Monday episode. They haven't went over 300 yards yet as an offense. I just simply can't trust that offense. And it seems like the defense is kind of given up too because they can't trust the offense. I think the Chargers find a way to win. I don't know. I feel so dirty saying that too because I don't know if I really believe it. But I also don't know if I could believe the Bears win. This game might end up being a tie. Maybe that's what happens. But I'm going to take the Chargers by 3 points. A low scoring 17-14 type win for the Chargers. I'll take them. I trust Phillip Rivers over Mitchell Trubisky. My next game is the Giants. They're heading out to Detroit to face the Lions. As far as news, the Giants are actually shopping around Janoris Jenkins as a potential trade candidate leading up to the deadline on Tuesday. So that's something to monitor over the weekend. We'll see if I have an update on the Monday episode to see if he gets shipped. I don't expect to hear any guys getting traded, though, until Monday and Tuesday with the games going on this weekend. But I'm sure more rumors will come out Sunday morning. And then as far as injuries heading into this, with the Giants, for notable names, Corey Ballantyne's hasn't practiced with a concussion. Sterling Shepard's been limited with a concussion, but I believe the report is he probably won't be playing this Sunday. Darius Slay, not only he's upset with the organization, but he has not practiced this week with a hamstring. Nick Bodden has been limited with a foot. Mike Daniels has returned to practice. He's been limited with a split injury. I'm not sure if he is set to return or not. As far as how this game's going to go, I would pick Detroit, but everything I talked about earlier about the locker room being very upset about the trade, upset with the organization, I think that's going to play into the field this week. I think Daniel Jones has a better game. I know he's kind of been looking bad over the last – no, I won't say bad, but he's been looking like a rookie the last few weeks. I think he's set to have a pretty good game, especially if Darius Slay does not play with his injury. And then, of course, it's your classic revenge game for Golden Tate. I'm picking the Giants. I think the Giants go in there and upset them. If this locker room drama wasn't going on with the Diggs trade, I probably would pick the Lions. But I think the Giants upset them. I think this is going to linger onto the field. I think you're going to see people not doing their assignments the right way, and it's going to lead to big plays. Evan Ingram going like up the seam wide open or something like that. I think and it's indoors on that turf. I think Saquon Barkley is going to have a really great afternoon. So I am going to take the Giants on an upset. It'll be a close one. I'll pick the Giants to win like 24-21, that type of game. Let's go ahead and get into the next game then. Jets are traveling down to Jacksonville to face the Jaguars. You guys know on my Monday episode, I talked about the Kelechi Assembly drama. An update on that, he is actually having that surgery today. He posted, I believe, on his Instagram, the letter from his doctor that urged that he does need the surgery. This thing is getting dirty. I don't understand. What do you got to fight for, Jets? You're looking like the bad guy in this whole thing. Like, what are you doing? Just let this thing go by. Like, put him on IR, let him have the surgery, pay the guy, don't fine him, because this is going to get very ugly if you try to get in the battle with the NFLPA, especially right before. Like, I can't believe, like, Roger Goodell has not called them and be like, we are in the middle of CBA talks. We don't have time for this type of BS to be going on. We want to have a good relationship with the players so we can get the deal done. I don't understand this whole situation, but good for Assembly standing his ground. Apparently, like, even his own teammates told him it's a messed up situation. So when that stuff happens, that just makes teams not gel well. And that's the type of stuff that messes with the chemistry. And maybe that's why they looked as bad as they did against the Patriots. I mean, I know it was the Patriots, but there's got to be something to it. Another note on the Jets front, they are interested in trading Robbie Anderson. As you guys know, on my Monday episode, I did report how the wide receiver market is expected to be heavy, teams in for the wide receivers. So with Sanu and Sanders being traded, Robbie Anderson is not that bad of a, I want to say settle for him, but wouldn't it be like a, whoever's trying to trade, like the Saints were involved, that could be a landing spot for him, possibly. Maybe the Eagles. Maybe the Packers. I'm not sure they really need him. I really don't understand the whole. If the Packers are going to trade for a wide receiver, I think they need to go for an AJ Green, not a Robbie Anderson type. But this will be something to monitor. See if he gets traded before the deadline on Tuesday. Go ahead and let me just double check on the Jaguars. Oh yeah, Marcel Darius for the Jaguars, their defensive tackle. He did have core muscle surgery this week, so he's going to be out for the next 4 to 6 weeks. So we'll see if he returns. Obviously, it depends on where the Jaguars are as far as the season when he is able to come back to practice. And now, as far as injuries, maybe the Jets need to look at their training staff because their whole team's pretty banged up. Kelvin Beachum has not practiced with the ankle injury. C.J. Mosley is back out again with his groin injury. Following guys have been limited. Henry Anderson with a shoulder, Chris Herndon with a hamstring, Neville Hewitt with a knee and neck, Steve McClendon with a hamstring, Demarius Thomas with a hamstring, Brian Winters with a shoulder and knee, and then Jamison Crowder has been limited with a knee injury. On the Jaguars front, they're pretty banged up too, though. Marquise Lee with an ankle injury, D.D. Westbrook hasn't practiced with his neck and shoulder, Leon Jacobs hasn't practiced with a hamstring, Quincy Williams hasn't practiced with a hamstring, and then their two offensive linemen, Andrew Norwell has been limited with the ankle, and Cam Robinson's been limited with the toe. As far as how I think this game's going to go, I could honestly, even with all the drama, BS, and injuries, I can honestly see this going either way. Entering today, I kind of was thinking that I had an inclination to pick the Jets. I had a feeling that maybe Sam Darnold has a bounce back performance. They go down and they upset the Jaguars on the road, but I don't know if that. The Assembly drama, now there's reports of Anderson getting traded. And then Sam Darnold's missing a toenail and all those injuries. I just don't feel right picking the Jets, even though I can see them winning. I am going to go ahead and pick the Jaguars at this. They're at home, and there's just too much going on with the Jets for me to put my money on them. But I could see this going either way. I think it ends up being like a field goal type win for the Jaguars. And then I'm going to go ahead and get into these are going to be the afternoon games. The first game, I'm actually pretty excited about this one. Carolina's traveling out to San Francisco to face the 49ers. As far as news, there's nothing for either front. And then as far as injuries heading into the matchup, Greg Little hasn't practiced with his concussion for the Panthers. Cam Newton hasn't returned to practice yet with his foot injury. Brian Burns has been limited with a wrist injury. And then Gerald McCoy has been limited with a knee injury. And then as far as the 49ers, Kyle Juszczyk is still out with his knee injury. Mike McGlinchey as well with his knee injury, and Kayla Weatherspoon is still out with his foot injury. D Ford's been limited with the quadricep. DJ Jones with a hamstring has been limited. George Kittle's been limited with a groin. Raheem Mostert's been limited with a knee injury. Deebo Samuel's been limited with a groin injury. Some good news is Joe Staley has returned to practice. He's been limited with a fibula. That's another one I'm not sure if he's going to be set to return this week or not. And then Dante Pettis has been limited with a knee injury. As far as this game, I think this game's going to be really good. I think this is going to be a really good defensive battle. I don't expect a lot of points to be scored in this game. It's one of those games it's hard for me to pick because the 49ers defense is legit. They're undefeated. They're playing pretty great ball. But then you got to look at the Panthers. Ever since Kyle Allen came in, that team's undefeated with Kyle Allen. And this is a big NFC type game. This is a game they need to win, help their chances to get to the playoffs. I don't know. It's hard for me to pick. I think it's going to be a really low-scoring defensive battle. I think the Panthers win, though. I'm going to take the Panthers. I think for us, you're the spoiler alert. I think we're going to see those undefeated teams go down this week. But I'm picking the Panthers, and I think it's going to be a field goal fest. I'm saying Panthers win 12-9. I don't know. I just got this weird feeling the Panthers are going to upset them. Christian McCaffrey's going to have a pretty good day. Kyle Allen's going to, he's really good at not making mistakes, and I think he's going to keep them within a game, and they're just going to find a way to win. And the Panthers' defensive front is good, and they got Luke Kuechly. So I think they have what it takes, and this is why I'm picking them too. Is I think they have what it takes to stop that ground game of the Panthers, and this is. I feel like this is going to be the game that Jimmy G can try to prove it to me. I feel like the Panthers are going to stop the run game, and if Jimmy G can deliver and have a great afternoon, then that's when I can fully buy into the 49ers. I could definitely see them winning, though. Don't get it twisted, but I have a feeling the Panthers win this, and they win, like I said, low scoring, by a field goal, and I got the Panthers, with the upset. I'm going to go ahead and move on to my next game. Oakland is traveling out to Houston, which is pretty interesting that they traded Conley there the week that they're going to play him. So kind of odd because that means Conley can give some tips on their secondary calls and whatnot to the offensive coordinator there for Houston. No news outside that trade, though. As far as practice reports with the Raiders, Josh Jacobs has not practiced this week with a shoulder injury, and apparently it's a pretty serious shoulder injury. Trent Brown has been limited with a calf injury. Rodney Hudson's been limited with an ankle injury. Gabe Jackson's been limited with a knee injury. So their offensive line's dealing with little knick-knack injuries, it appears. Arden Key he's returned to practice. He's been limited with a knee. Looks like Tyrell Williams is now limited with a foot injury. We'll see if those two guys are able to return. And then Jalen Richard has been limited with an ankle injury. On the Texans front, Will Fuller has not practiced this week with a hamstring as expected. Same with Titus Howard with his knee injury. Following players have been limited. Deshaun Gibson sounds like me every day. He's been limited with a back, hamstring, and wrist injury. Roderick Johnson's been limited with a neck injury. Jonathan Joseph with a hamstring and neck. And then Bradley Roby's been limited with a hamstring injury. But I think he's still supposed to miss like 3 or 4 weeks, even though he's been practicing. As far as how this game's going to go, I mean, if the Raiders don't have Josh Jacobs, there's no way I can even see them winning. The only way I can see the Raiders winning is they go in Houston, they just ground and pound, get Jacobs the ball, 20 to 28 touches, and they just control the clock, keep Deshaun Watson off the field. And then when they're controlling the clock, they're getting, touchdowns and not field goals, touchdowns. And then they just limit the big explosive playmaking ability of Deshaun, and that's how they can win. But I just don't see that happening. I think Deshaun's going to have a big day. I think Kenny Stills is going to get a couple big touchdowns. Big bomb touchdowns, and I think they handle their business against the Raiders, especially if Josh Jacobs isn't going to play. I don't really think they have much of a chance. So I'm gonna pick the Texans to win, and I think honestly, probably even with Jacobs, I think they win by a touchdown at least. I'm gonna go ahead and get into the next game then. Cleveland is traveling out to New England to face the Patriots. One news front is Josh Gordon. He was placed on IR. But apparently he's healthy enough to return, which is weird. So apparently I guess this is to try to keep Josh Gordon from other teams. But the report was if they were to release him from IR, he would go through the waivers. So if he gets cut, that means a team like the Dolphins can claim him because they'll be the first on the waiver wire. He wouldn't become a straight free agent. So it'll be interesting. This is also a name I think you want to monitor leading up to the trade deadline. We already talked about, there's a lot of teams in the wide receiver market for trading. So maybe that's why they haven't yet to release him from IR, even though that was the initial report when all this came out. It's something to monitor. If he goes, maybe like a team. I've been talking about this with some of my buddies this week, but I feel like his place that would be the best bet for it. Not best bet for him, but best feel for me where he would go is like Raiders. He can play right away. They need a big time receiver. I want to call him a former big time, but he still has the capability, even though we haven't seen it this year. But yeah, I feel like if he goes to any team, it might be in Oakland. And then other than that, with the injuries with this matchup on the Browns front, Demarius Randall hasn't practiced with a hamstring injury. Myles Garrett's been limited with a knee. On the Patriots, Ryan Izzo and Matt Lacoste haven't practiced this week. Izzo has got a concussion, Lacoste with a knee. And then Shaq Mason has been limited with an ankle injury. Rex Burkhead has been limited with a foot injury. Patrick Chung has been limited with a heel and chest injury. And then Julian Edelman's still been limited with that chest injury. As far as this is going to go, I kind of let it go earlier with the spoiler, but I think the Browns are going to go in and upset them. I think it's going to be a good game. I think this is, like I talked about the Eagles and some other teams. For the Browns, this is your classic back to the wall. You're coming off a bye week, and you need a win so you can try to keep as close as possible to the Ravens to win the North, but also to try to get back in at least in wild card contention. So I think this is a game. You had a bye week to get that offense fixed, to get everything together, to go on a run. This is a make or break game for the Browns, and this is where we're going to see what Freddie Kitchens is made of. Because if they come out and they fall flat on their face, this team's done for the year with all that talent and letting it all go to waste. So I think they're going to upset them. I think, I do want to give respect to the Patriots. They are undefeated. Their defense is legit, but I still think that offense has some question marks around it. And because of that, I think they can get like Myles Garrett to get after Brady and get him off his flow, force him maybe into interceptions. And I think they're going to squeeze out a win. I think they win like a 28-24 type win. I got the Browns in an upset. And then I'm going to go ahead and get into the Sunday night game. Green Bay is traveling to KC to face the Chiefs. As far as news, there's nothing on either team. As far as the injury report heading into the matchup, Devontae Adams is still out with that toe. Corey Lindsey didn't practice with his back. And then Darnell Savage has been limited with an ankle injury. Marquez Valdez-Scantling has been limited this week with a knee and ankle. And then Jimmy Graham has been limited with an ankle injury. And then the Chiefs front, they're somewhat banged up with some important players on their defense. Frank Clark hasn't practiced with a neck. Chris Jones hasn't practiced with a groin. Darren Lee hasn't practiced this week with an illness. Kendall Fuller hasn't practiced with a thumb injury. And the most surprising thing is Patrick Mahomes is actually practicing this week. He's been limited. But I'm going to go ahead and say that even though he's practicing, everybody assumes that from the reports I read from Ian Rappaport this morning on Good Morning Football, he's not going to play Sunday. It's pretty adamant that he sounds pretty convinced that Mahomes won't be playing. As great as it would have been as cool as it would have been to see Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers go at it for the first time. But unfortunately, that's taken away, and we won't see that for, maybe another, I think they'll meet again in 3 years, unless they do, of course, meet in a Super Bowl one day, and that could be this year. And then also Andrew Wiley has been limited with the ankle injury. As far as this game's going to go, it's, of course, barring like a total surprise, Patrick Mahomes is going to play. Like, that's the only way I think the Chiefs win. Because other than that, it's Aaron Rodgers versus Matt Moore. That's all I really got to say. And then on top of that, I just told you some very key names that are on their injury report that have not practiced this week. So if those guys are going to be out on Sunday, that even hurts their chances even worse to try to slow down Aaron Rodgers. if Mahomes was playing, this would be a really great game. Other than that, I do think the Packers just handle their business and they win by 10-plus points. Unfortunately, we are supposed to get a great Sunday night game, and now it looks like most of us might be able to get some good sleep on Sunday night and stay up too late. And then I'm going to go ahead and get into the Monday Night Football this week is Miami and Pittsburgh. There is no news for the Dolphins or Steelers. And then I'm going to go ahead and let's see here. Rob, he's got a producer question for me. This feels like one of the most attractive trade seasons ever. Do you see this being new normal or a flash trend, or good? Is it good for the league? No, this is going to be a normal thing. I think people realize they would rather have. I think if you're in a win now mode for teams are realizing that the draft picks are so hit and miss. And if you got a window, I would rather trade for, this is my opinion, I would rather trade for a known commodity over waiting to see what I might get. So yeah, I think this is a trend that will stay. And I do think it's good for the league as long as players aren't doing the AB thing and Jalen Ramsey, as long as it's got to be the right players to do that. If you're a star, you have the right to do that. I just don't want to see good to great players. You got to be there's good to great, don't just beg to get out there. Now, if you're an amazing player like those guys, yeah, I can understand it. Use your power, use your leverage if you don't want to be there anymore. But yeah, I think it is good for the league as long as it doesn't get too much like the NBA. And then other than that, guys, I just want to thank you for tuning in today's episode. If you like what you heard, please hit the like button. Subscribe to our channel so you get updates when my videos come up. I know we're going to be having some more YouTube shows hitting the line coming up here soon as a little teaser for you guys. And other than that, please go subscribe to the Blitzalytics Podcast Network on all podcast platforms. That's where my audio version of the show is. That's where all other Blitzalytics podcasts are, including the Fantasy Football Hot Seat. That's my Fantasy Football podcast with Robert Robertson of Blitzalytics. And yeah, and then please, guys, if you have any money to give, please go to go.rallyup.com/allheart. There's 10 different charities for 10 different teams for 10 great causes. So if you got a little money to give this year, please go give it to one of those charities. I really don't care if you help out a Blitzalytics team or if you help out, one of the other 8 teams that are not Blitzalytics teams. Yeah, go help some great causes. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Be safe this weekend and have a great Sunday when we get all that football going on. See you guys Monday.
Thank you for watching Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. As always, hit that like and subscribe button, and then hit that bell notification icon to stay up to date on all things football.